my unboxing or book haul or whatever you want to call it.
Book haul.
Hi there, Malcolm here with my 105th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you my science fiction book haul. Last week we visited my parents and I went and helped myself to some of my dad's sci-fi books. He said it was okay, so that's alright then. I picked up quite a stack, so this is what I managed to grab off him. Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. Didn't see the film, I don't know anything about the book, but I have been curious about it for some time now. Here's a copy, so I'll get to read it at some point. Planet of the Damned by Harry Harrison.
Dad was all, "No, I need to get a drink of water." I should have got one before bedtime. I told you. No, you don't. I see every night.
This is a Brian Brand adventure. I read this years and years ago. I have very little recollection of it. Been dying to reread it. Now I can. Planet of No Return, also by Harry Harrison, and another Brian Brand. And another Brian Brand adventure. This one I do remember, in that this planet and this wreckage is where two civilizations send their machines of war to go and battle it out on this planet. No humans involved, no life is lost. No life is lost. It's just they go and fight on this planet using the machines of war to determine stuff. Well, anyway, that's what I can remember. Love to reread it. Going to. Indecent Exposure by Tom Sharp. A month or so ago, I read Riotous Assembly. That's book one of this series, I guess. This is the follow-up. Set in South African apartheid. I remember book one quite distinctly, not just because I just read it, but I remember reading it the first time. I have read this one. I really don't remember it at all, so this needs a reread as well. The Warriors of Day by James Blish. My father had 2 copies of this, so yes, I can have one. I wouldn't have picked it up normally, but hey, free book. I haven't read much James Blish, but what I have read I have enjoyed. Don't know anything about it. Will do one day. Snow White and the Seven Samurai by Tom Holt. I have read this one. Mine's a complete blank though as to what was happened in it. Mine's a complete blank as to what happened in it. A couple of months ago I read An Orc on the Wild Side by Tom Holt, which was the second book I'd ever read from him. So I thought I'd reread the first book I read. see if I can appreciate it a bit more. And if I do, I can then move on to Falling Sideways, also by Tom Holt. And no, I've not read this one before. A series I've been meaning to reread for a long time is the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. I'm particularly interested now that I've heard that there's going to be a TV series based on it. Not quite sure how that's going to work. It's not necessarily the most obvious book to make a series out of. I've read the first 4, I believe. So I'll buy book 1 just to give it a go again. For the Light That Never Was by Lloyd Biggle. One of my all-time favourite authors. I've not read this one. The cover has always fascinated me. So I figured it's worth giving it a go. And then Watchers of the Dark, also by Lloyd Biggle Jr. And possibly my all-time favourite book. I absolutely adore this book. I keep mentioning this in any list about the favourite book of all time. This is the book I mention. Managed to find it in my dad's collection. So I'm going to give it another reread. Essentially, the galaxy needs a detective, so they go to Earth to get Jan Darzek to come and investigate something that needs investigating. I won't go into it more than that. And I just love the way this film noir type galactic story unfolds. This is actually book 2 in the series. I have book 1 upstairs, which I would argue is possibly even better than this one, in my personal opinion. But I have so much fondness for this one. I never knew science fiction could be like this. I've also been working my way through my Bob Shaw collection. Unfortunately, I got to the end of that, and so I've gone over to my dad's collection. And it was those books that got me into it in the first place. Starting with Night Walk, possibly the best thing that Bob Shaw ever wrote. This is a fantastically interesting story featuring a guy who is blinded by an aggressively by an overzealous police officer while being arrested. Sound familiar? And while in prison, he is able to devise a series. Is able to devise a mechanism by which he can see through the eyes of those around him. It's a really interesting idea with far-reaching consequences. Absolutely stunner of a book. The series Solution. Which I must confess I can't remember what it's about at all. I know I must have enjoyed it, but it needs a reread. War and Peace. This is hilarious. I love this book. He joined the Space Foreign Legion to forget. This chap, War and Peace, comes and joins the Space Foreign Legion and discovers he has forgotten everything in his life. Most people forget like the previous week or a couple of months or even a year or so. No, this guy has no recollection of who he was. And everyone thinks he's some sort of monster or major mass murderer or something. Anyway, during his escapades, he finds himself on a time-travelling toilet, as you do, and uses that to his advantage to go and seek out who he once was, and why he seems to have forgotten everything, and why he needed to have forgotten everything. I might as well give away the punchline as to what War and Peace is all about. Who wrote War and Peace?
Was that Tchaikovsky? Do I need to look that up? Hold on. Tolstoy.
Leo Tolstoy.
Yeah.
When he goes into the brain wiping thing, he was able to choose the name to be known as when he comes out. And he quite liked the name Leo Tolstoy. So to remember it, he brought in the book with him, War and Peace. And therefore goes through the rest of his life as War and Peace. Brilliant. There is a sequel. I should have mentioned this is actually called Who Goes Here. This is War and Peace, Who Goes Here. I edited that so at the beginning. There's a sequel just called War and Peace. Just called War and Peace. But getting hold of a copy is nigh on impossible. I don't want this style copy, not the horrible yellow copy. I'll keep trying, but so far I haven't been very successful. And finally, A Wreath of Stars. I got vague memories of this one. Something about an anti-Earth and this Earth both trying to exist in the same place at the same time, causing two planets trying to sort of semi-collide or something. But I remember it being really interesting, very clever thoughts, very clever concepts going on here. And another one that really needs reading again. Needless to say, that was a tiny fraction of my dad's collection. I wasn't going to bring it all back. But I definitely wanted the Bob Shaws and the Lloyd Bickel Juniors. And some other things that caught my eye along the way. And most of that I grew up reading. And stuff like it. So, do you have any fond childhood books? Also, do you have any fond memories of... So, do you have any fond memories of books while growing up? What were they? And I have kept... Or are you familiar with any of those books I just showed you? Comments below in the section down below. As usual, if you have nothing else to say, please keep it to yourself. Thank you, and until next time, see you later.